Janice Russell popping back in. And today I'm going to continue talking about life disrupting situations. This is a follow up to a video I did the other day. And I will be talking specifically about rotator cuff surgery that I'm getting tomorrow, and not about the surgery itself, but about some of the effects afterwards of things I have to change. And then I will also actually talk about similar situations that other people may go through because you may or may not care too much about a rotator cuff repair, but you may have other health conditions that you're going, oh, yeah, I hadn't thought about doing that. All right, so in this case, rotator cuff repair to my right side, which is my dominant hand. And since I went through it with my left side, I know a little bit about what I need to have as far as what I'll call my success tools. In this case, they're really the things I need for everyday living, because not only will I need to use my non-dominant hand for things like eating, which is hard enough unto itself, but there are lots of other things. And you also wouldn't believe how many things you use both hands for. And so only using the left hand when I'm used to using the right hand and the left even makes it more difficult. Now, I do have to start in a sling, and this isn't just any ordinary sling. And so today I brought some visuals along so you can see. So we have, this is the regular part of the sling, but then we got this big thing behind it that has to go, and it pretty much straps my arm so I can't move it in and out this way at all. So it'll be pinned to my body, which means I can't really use it at all to help with any of the tasks. So, of course, there are things like brushing teeth and showers and all that kind of stuff. So I've learned that, first of all, and this is actually true for a number of surgeries, having a bath puff on a stick is very helpful to get to places without having to use my dominant hand, but also not being able to bend over and stuff like that. So I have used it after numerous surgeries, but also, for example, people who have vertigo, it could be helpful for that because then they don't have to bend over as far. So there are all sorts of reasons why someone might choose to use that as a tool. Now, another big tool, okay, brushing my teeth with my left hand, not going to be a pretty sight, but flossing when I don't have two hands, yeah, going to be a problem. So I have the one-handed little handle things. I don't like to use them because they're disposable and they take more plastic, but for this limited time, that is my only choice. Or at least my dentist would think so because he wants me to make sure that I am flossing. Another really important tool in my particular case is I'm going to need lots of ice in the beginning. And so they have this handy dandy thing called a polar cube. Happily, when I had my last rotator cuff surgery, that was included in the surgery package. Now it is not. It has to be bought separately. So happy for me, I still have mine. So I have this fun little thing which gets strapped onto my arm, and this part goes into this, which has ice in it. And so ice is constantly being pumped to help provide relief. Now, the reason I bring this up is because this thing then means I need to think about, okay, in my bedroom, is there a place to put this? Does the cord stretch far enough? It needs to be on my right side. So is there a plug over on that side? So things of that nature all have to be taken into account. And the last one I will do before I go into a little bit more of a generalization is, so they tell you after a number of different surgeries that it is best to sleep in a recliner. Well, that's all fine and well, but I don't have one. And even though I've had several surgeries where it could have been handy, I don't want to buy one. So usually I've just done the whole pillow thing behind, which some success, some not success, but it was what I was willing to do. So happily, one time, well, a couple of years ago, when I had a double mastectomy and was told to also be in a recliner, I also got a special pillow for other purposes for that surgery called a Billow Pillow. And so it's a specialized pillow. And so that will help me to be able to sleep better, even though I bought it for a completely different surgery. It will be very helpful. That's just that's just getting through like daily routines and not even all of them. But I just wanted to give that as an example of when something goes awry, we'll say, especially with health related things. A lot of times your ADLs, and if you don't know what that means, it means activities of daily living. A lot of times those are impacted. Things we don't really think about are impacted. Getting dressed, for example, I will have to have pants with elastics, sweatpants, shirts that button. Happily, I sort of have some of those I keep around just for purposes like this. Uh, and again, just little things. Not going to be able to cook, not going to be able to pull lids off of things because I can't anchor and pull with the other hand. So I had to think in terms of, oh, I need someone to stay with me, not just for the night of surgery, which is required, but for several weeks. And that's a big ask. In the past, my mother has been able to provide that. However, we had to take away her car back in the fall, so that is not an option. And I will need transportation, not just for surgery, but also for physical therapy. So, and that's another thing to think about is that not physical therapy, but when you have some type of a health related circumstance, a lot of times things that usually A are routine and you don't have to think about, and B you can get done in a really short period of time, they take a lot longer. And so you have to plan for that in your daily living. So, for example, brushing your teeth. Okay, I got it down pat with my right hand, been doing it. We won't talk about how many years. Now with the left hand, it's going to take longer because I'm not used to doing it with my left hand. So that, when I'm looking at time in the day and how much time it takes, again, it just little moments, they tend to mount up. Now, the first few weeks, I won't be able to do anything. I really won't even be able to be on the computer. So sorry about that. Although I may have my lovely friend who will be staying with me help to at least be able to get the computer up and set it for a Facebook Live and let me do that. But we'll see. So again, just anything of that nature. So let me expound on this a little, not in terms of my surgery, but in terms of other situations. So, for example, someone with diabetes, they may, if they have to test their blood sugar, if they have to, have certain things to eat, if their blood sugar is too high or too low, or if they have to have insulin, those are all things that then become a part of their activities of daily living. And so they have to figure out where that stuff is going to be stored, how they're going to remember if they're when they're supposed to do the testing. That may require an app, or something else as a reminder if using an app on the phone is not something that really works for them. So that's just one example. Now, a different kind of tool, as it were, for example, someone who has migraines on a consistent basis. So, besides medication as a tool, sometimes that doesn't work, isn't as effective, or they have so many migraines that they, max out on medication. So for someone of that having that difficulty, it might be that their best tool is to find the darkest, quietest room in the house, and that's where they go, and that's their tool because that's something that helps them, basically a supply that helps them to weather through the migraine. So, what about someone who has ADHD? Well, often uh, task completion, procrastination, things of that nature often happen. Or the whole squirrel thing, which is not just for someone who's diagnosed with ADHD. A lot of us have the squirrel where we're like, oh, I want to do that. Oh, wait a minute. Let me think about that. Let me do this. And then we forget where we are altogether and things. However, there are tools for that. And there are some that actually say that they are tools for someone with ADHD, and then there are other ones. So, for example, there's the Pomodoro timer, and there are free apps for that, or you can just use a regular timer if you want and set it for some people, they do like 45 minutes on task and then 15 minutes off. Some will do 20 or 25 minutes on and 5 minutes or 10 minutes off. But that's a tool that helps them stay on task, knowing they've got a break. Or at the very least, if a squirrel happens to cross by while they're working on something, the timer will often remind them, oh, wait a minute, I'm supposed to be doing something. I'm not, so let me reset. Uh, so that's just a little bit about selecting tools when there's a life disrupting situation. Would love to, and those are just, again, health based life disrupting situations, because there are all sorts of other life disrupting situations that require tools as well. Let's just think about moving. We got all sorts of tools. We need the boxes, we need vehicles to move it in, or we need to call movers to move it, etc. So I would love to know if you have any questions about some tools that might help you, whether it's in your personal or professional life, especially when you're going through life disrupting situations. So feel free to comment below so that I know how to best serve you in the future when I do Facebook Lives. Thanks a lot.